everybody. This is Greg Wareham with Your Mortgage Process. Now, with the 4th of July and Memorial Day behind us this year, I hope that people have taken the time to appreciate what it means to be an American. We all owe our way of life and our liberties to those who served in our armed forces. They've provided the very freedoms under which we all live. To serve in our military is a selfless and heroic act of American patriotism. Whether or not you are an active member of the military or a veteran, you're part of a fraternity that's exclusive to you and to its members. Now, I'm not an expert in all of the benefits that our country provides to our service members, but I do feel passionately that we can never do enough as Americans to better support our troops while in service and support our veterans after leaving service. From a real estate perspective, veterans have the highest percentage of home ownership in the country, at somewhere between 76 and 79%, where non-veterans are at 64%. And if you're on active duty, you have a 50% of people on active duty are homeowners, which is a really high number given that average age demographic and the transient nature of being in active duty. So although homeownership or the homeownership rate is high, the percentage of those using their VA benefits for mortgage is low. It's under 25%, which is unfortunate because a VA mortgage is, in my opinion, the best mortgage that someone can get in the marketplace. And I really thought about why that is. And I'm going to give 3 reasons that I came up for. Is one, they don't know. You come out of the service, you're in the service, and you're not sure what's available to you. They feel the process is too difficult or time consuming. And I think in the market that we're in right now, a lot of it's just been, they're afraid that the offer is not going to be accepted, especially if you're putting 0% down. So hopefully we can shed some light on this and some other critical aspects of being a veteran in an active service today on the show. With that, I have the great pleasure of introducing Mr. Dennis Marks.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thanks for coming today, Dennis.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure.
It is a pleasure. It is.
All right. The first thing we need to clear out is, what's your real name?
So my real name is Dennis Interdonato. I'm full-blown Italian, but nobody can pronounce my name or spell it most of the time. So I brand myself as Dennis Mark, which is my middle name, but technically it's my confirmation name.
Okay.
But that's what I use. It's a lot easier, and that's why I do it, because I got a long last name, and it's a lot easier to remember Mark than it is Interdonato.
I mean, Dennis Mark is the stage name.
It is.
It's fantastic. Now, Dennis, you were in the military for how long?
10 years.
10 years. And when were you formally discharged, or when did you leave service?
2007. I was 1997 to 2007.
Now, after you left in 2007, what was kind of your path after that? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I was mostly Army Reserve National Guard.
Okay.
In the majority of my service. So my transition after the military wasn't that difficult compared to active duty military trying to get back into that whole civilian regime of life again.
Sure.
For me, it wasn't that difficult. I was still doing college, so graduated college, and then I actually just went right into a family business of building and remodeling.
Okay.
And
now, were you on the GI Bill when you came out?
So the GI Bill was a lot different back then than it is now.
Okay.
It's gotten a lot better.
Good.
Through the years. Back when I was taking advantage of it, the only thing that the GI Bill gave us was, while you were in school, or in college for that matter, it was almost like a stipend. You just got an extra like $230 a month.
Okay.
And you only got it during the months that you were in school.
Okay. All right, so that's not going to get you too far.
I mean, back then, we're talking late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
So $230 back then actually was a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
Like it got me through the month. It sure did. I mean, I worked too, but
sure.
it got me through the month, or it paid for my books for the semester if I used all the money combined for the 4 months for that semester.
So you were you went into the family business, which is construction. And when did you switch over to real estate?
So in about 2006, like right before like the killer boom,
right?
I had decided to get my license because my dad and I wanted to start flipping. So I went in and got my license and really just used it for the family, for the business. Didn't really help anybody else, didn't actively pursue a full-time real estate career, but I've had my license since then.
Okay. And then when did you really start to transition into focusing more on real estate than the family business?
So actually was completely separate from each other.
Right.
I actually closed the family business in 2018.
Okay.
My dad semi-retired, and once he was like out of the office, I didn't want to do it anymore.
Sure.
It just wasn't there for me anymore. It turned out just loved working with my dad. It wasn't that I loved the business. I just loved being with him.
Right.
And once he was gone, that was it. The thrill of the hunt was gone.
Sure.
So shut it down. And then about a year and a half later, I had decided to try my hand at real estate full time.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years later, here we are.
Yeah, and you and I have had a lot of conversations off the air about real estate, and know you've done exceptionally well at it. And I know that you're also very passionate about better serving our veterans and our active duty service members. And before we go down that path, I just want to talk to you a little bit. Someone who's been in the service, plus you were in the reserves, 10 years of total service. How hard is it to reacclimate to civilian life when you come out of the military?
There's like different levels
Sure.
of difficulty. I would say those who spend more time in the military, or those who have actually deployed and seen combat, will probably have a lot harder time reacclimating to civilian life than those who have just spent time in the military for maybe 2 or 3 years or something. Because your civilian life is still there, like it's still in your head. But the longer you spend in the military, the more you become the military.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and again, also based on what you've been through, or what you've seen, or what you may have had or not had to do, or things like that, that all plays a part in that reacclimation.
So when you've been associated with the military for 10 years like yourself, or someone who's been active duty for 10 years, what do you think the hardest part is to reacclimate?
The hardest part is probably thinking for yourself again.
Okay.
When you're in the military, you're just told what to do.
Right.
And you do it. You have a job. You do your job. You have your 3 squares a day. Your 3 hots and a cot, as they call it, or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, there's other reasons to use that term, but military is definitely one
I
of
could
them.
see that, though. It's very, very regimented, very laser focused.
It is.
ABC. All right, you're doing D today. And it just very, very regimented.
Yeah, and also as far as trying to find a job again is super tough, because as much as the military tells you, oh yeah, you can use these skills to get you a job when you leave the military, a lot of that is not true at all.
Right.
Maybe if you're a mechanic or something like that, or something in the medical arts field or something.
Sure.
But if you're a gun bunny, or I was a gun bunny for a while in the artillery, or if you're infantry or something like that, there's not much available for you. You could become a police officer or something along those lines, but other than that, what are you going to do?
Sure. And I want to get into that in a minute. So when you come out of the military, are you changed? Are you a different person than when you went in?
Yeah, 100%.
How so?
100%. It's just a completely different mentality.
Okay.
You have a lot of respect for a lot of different things. A lot of the little things you appreciate more, because you learn to live with less.
Right.
And life isn't that difficult in the military. It really isn't. It's when you get out and you have all these things available to you again.
Sure.
Those temptations or those wants, they all come back into play, and it is a little difficult to start finding your way again and everything.
So how supportive is the VA once you come out or you're discharged?
It really all depends on who is helping you, I think.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. We hear horror stories about the VA and how they don't help, and how they're understaffed, or how the people that they do hire are POS and this and that. And to some extent, some of that is true.
Right.
Certainly. My brother, he's a veteran as well, and he has utilized the VA for a lot of things. He was overseas. He got hurt. He had to come home. He had surgeries. He had some other stuff going on. He had to have some things cut out of him. He had to have some screws put in him. And
as a result of being overseas?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you,
How's he feeling now?
he's okay. I mean,
Okay.
like, look, he's okay, but he'll never be 100%.
Right.
And no veteran ever will,
Right.
ever, mentally or physically. But for the most part, getting back to like the main question,
You'd mentioned job
Yeah.
placement. Like, how supportive did you find the VA?
um, they don't put you in a job.
Right.
Okay, they will tell you where you can go to find a job,
Mhm.
but you can find that anywhere.
Right.
You know, you can do your own research, especially nowadays with the internet and everything. You know, everything is at our fingertips. It's just a matter of mindset.
How about from a healthcare perspective? They take care of you after you leave the military?
Yeah, it's a touchy subject.
Okay.
There is obviously there's healthcare available. You know, we have our VA hospitals and everything.
Sure.
But they're so overloaded.
Right.
You know, and there's so much more money that should be put into our veteran care system, and it goes elsewhere. And that's why we hear these horror stories, is because they're understaffed. You know, they don't have like the best
underfunded.
equipment. Yeah,
Right.
you know, the doctors, I give them so much credit, because you try dealing with thousands and thousands of disgruntled veterans.
Sure.
You know, it's not easy.
Well, and you're
at
talking
all.
millions of people.
Yeah.
Millions of veterans.
Mhm.
How do you find their mental health services? Same?
I've never utilized any help regarding mental health with the military. I do have friends that have, and they seem to be good with it. I do believe though that that's one of the areas where you might be able to go outside of the VA for the help.
Okay.
I know, like in the past, the last administration we had with the country, they were trying to change all that, where you could go outside of the VA to get medical assistance and therapy and things like that. I don't know if it all still carried over, but I do believe that might be one of the outlets that you can go outside of for.
Now, how about financial services? When you look at, all right, you've come out of the service, how do they lead you down the path of handling finances? Because you haven't had to do that. Really,
Right.
most people are going to go in when they're 18, 19 years old. How do you handle your finances? How do you purchase a home? Is there any support or assistance with that?
So they'll tell you like, yeah, you know, you got the VA loan when you get out.
And that's the story.
And that's it. There's really no like hookup with like realtors or lenders or anything like
Sure.
that. It's pretty much you're on your own to find them yourself.
Well, hopefully you can look to improve that, if anything, at the local level, Dennis.
Well, we're gonna try.
Absolutely. Now, do you receive more? Do you think veterans in active military receive more help from the VA or really local organizations?
Local organizations.
Okay.
Local organizations geared toward assisting veterans.
Right.
Yes, I do believe that they receive more help that way, because those people, most of the time, they're not being paid for their services. They're strictly volunteer, and they're there to help.
Sure. What are some of the really good ones that you've seen in our area in New Jersey?
The best ones that I've seen actually are like the nonprofit organizations, like very, very close to me is Ma Deuce Deuce. They're
Right.
based out of Toms River, and what they do is they just try to get veterans out of the house. You know, if you are suffering from depression, or you're just alone, or you're trying to reacclimate and you just maybe don't know anybody here, or you just need a day.
Right.
This
Just be around like-minded people.
That's what
too.
it does.
People who can relate to the experience.
Yeah, in this organization, they do retreats and they do outings. They'll take veterans out. They'll take us to the ranges. They'll take us to the baseball games and stuff. And they receive a lot of charity as well in the form of like free tickets and furniture, things like that.
I think that it's a great organization.
It is.
You can't have enough great organizations to help support the causes for veterans.
Yeah.
When you look at the VA mortgage that you mentioned, you come out and they tell you, yeah, you can qualify for a VA mortgage. As we looked at the statistics, and I mentioned them earlier, is under 25% of veterans actually use their VA benefits. And just so everybody understands that's out there listening, how do you qualify for a VA mortgage? I mean, there's a lot of different qualifications in there, but here's some basic ones. If you've served 90 consecutive days of active duty, you should be eligible. If you've been in the service for 121 days of active duty, you should be eligible. So, and just to kind of reiterate that, 90 days consecutive active duty, meaning deployed, right? And 90 days deployed, 181 days of just active duty, you should be eligible. And there's so many highlights that we'll get into towards the end of this about the benefits of a VA mortgage and trying to lead people down that path of assistance. So when you look at helping veterans get into homes, Dennis, what's your role in helping bridge this gap?
So recently, my company, Keller Williams, they rolled out a whole new division called KW Military. And KW Military is geared specifically toward assisting veterans, veteran spouses, servicemen and women in getting homes, buying their homes, whether it's your first home or your third home or whatever. This program is specific to veterans. We have classes set up now that teach us how to basically like how to communicate with veterans, what to know, what you need to know, especially if they're active duty, when they're coming from, where they're going. It's a great program.
So how do you feel that program will better serve veterans and active duty? I know when we say veterans, really implying active duty as well.
So 100%, I think it's going to put them at ease, right? Because one of the biggest things that we have problems with is trusting people. So if I'm a veteran and I'm trying to help you right off the bat, we have a connection. Okay. So now if I'm taking this program and I'm utilizing it to help you or to help a fellow service member or even a service member's wife or husband, they're just going to feel comfortable with you, and it's going to allow for a smoother process throughout.
Yeah, and you know what? You can't put enough emphasis on working with like-minded people that have been through the same experience, whether it's a veteran or different cultures, whatever that is. But it is critical that you have that. And, when you look at a veteran or active duty, and I know I keep saying it, but you want to work with like-minded people. Why? How does a veteran think differently?
So when you're in the military, you're just taught one specific way. And it's pretty much just like straightforward all the time. It's more of a mindset than anything. If I'm being honest, sometimes it's really hard to explain what the connection is. It's more along the lines of you just feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a lot with how I am. Like you could be a stranger to me, and the minute somebody's like, "Oh yeah, he's a vet," I don't even care what branch of service you were in. We are automatically best buds.
Well, you're part of the brotherhood and sisterhood, of it. And I would imagine that there's probably a big difference in working with combat versus non-combat, or there could potentially be a difference.
Depending on how much combat they've been in and where their mental state is in, for sure there is a significant difference. But I have found for the most part, I've never had an issue. And I've never treated anybody any differently either. We all get treated the same. We make fun of each other. We joke around. Like that's it.
You got great hair. We like to talk about hair on the show. Right. Look at his hair. Nick, look at that.
I always say there's only one guy with better hair than me in the office, and I'm staring right at him.
Now, do you use pomade?
I use a couple different products.
You're going to get some good height on that.
I do. Maybe we'll do a whole podcast just on what I do.
I think so. You know what? It seems like this is a very, very popular topic. So, what do you think is the best path of assistance for a veteran?
We have to get the word out more.
Okay.
To help them. Most veterans, to be honest with you, when it comes to real estate, they never had like a military backing for real estate. It was always like a word of mouth, like, hey, do you know a realtor? I need to find a house. As long as I can use my VA loan, I don't care. Right. But now with Keller Williams, with rolling out this whole division, this is going to be huge.
Now, does it, in part of that KW military that you had mentioned, does it include connecting different parts of the process as well?
It's on the individual agent to do that.
Okay.
So if you're asking me, yes, it does.
Okay.
Like you and I have had conversations about ideas that I have, things that I would like to do within the state to get the word out more toward active service members, veterans, that we have this program. We're here to help, and we can be your go-to team for
Right.
anything real estate related. That's a big thing.
To include the lender, the let's say title companies, the movers. How do you set up your electricity? Like get everything in one spot to just make it that much more seamless.
Yeah, and to be honest, like the process really isn't that different if you're dealing with like a civilian versus a veteran,
Right.
when it comes to real estate, because the process is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of how how you communicate with them through the process.
Makes
That's
sense.
really it.
Yeah, makes sense. So Dennis, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back right at it. It's Dennis Mark, Greg Wareham on Your Mortgage Process. Welcome back, everyone. This, of course, is Greg Wareham with Your Mortgage Process, and we have Dennis Mark with us today. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, how you
Hey,
doing?
so we were talking a little bit off air about how we make a difference in education and support for a veteran in need of housing and home ownership. And what do you think, Dennis? What's the best way for us to get the word out there?
The best way is just like grassroots campaigning. You know,
Right.
you literally have to go. You have to make the time to put yourself out there and just let people know who you are and what you can do for them.
Right.
Really, the process is no different than doing anything as a realtor. You just need to know where to go and who to talk to.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the military bases, there's really like four major ones in the state, correct? I know Picatinney's one of them up by Route 15, Spartish area, Jefferson, I think it's in. And then a lot of them are in the southern part of the state, central and southern.
Right.
And, getting to those areas, getting to those bases to be able to better help support and drive the message, I'm certainly sure that would be helpful.
Sure. And not only the bases, but New Jersey in general, we have a very, very big military presence. So we have like all of the armories for the reserves and the National Guard.
Right.
There's a lot of them. So when you add all of that into the mix, I mean, you could keep yourself busy for years trying to get to all of them and making contact and trying to get in to talk to them and stuff. And actually, that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to do is get myself in there as a veteran, as a realtor, bringing you with me as an experienced lender.
Yeah.
And let them know what we can do for them.
It's funny when we started the program, I had mentioned three different reasons why veterans aren't doing more VA mortgages, and obviously we got to get the message out better. But I think there's also a misnomer with the fact that the process is more difficult. It really isn't. I mean, yes, there's less appraisers that can appraise a VA property or do an appraisal using VA guidelines, but it's not that significant of a difference. No. It's a misnomer. And then it's interesting in this market that we've been in where prices are so high. I work with a lot of veterans, and why wouldn't you want to put down 0% if you're a veteran? You do not have to pay PMI and you have a low interest rate. Like, it's a great benefit.
So in this current market, even though we're on the tail end of it, that was actually a disadvantage for a lot of veterans because of appraisal values.
Right.
Houses were going for so much over asking price. They weren't appraising for those prices that people were trying to buy the house for. So if you're putting zero money down, how is that going to help?
And it's so regionalized as well, because I've done some loans more down in the Virginia and Maryland area for veterans. Down in that marketplace, it's such a heavy population in certain communities of veterans that 0% down VA loan, that deal gets accepted. Where in New Jersey, for some reason, it doesn't, even though there's a big VA population or veteran population. And I think as part of our education process, it's really making that clear to people that, listen, it's the only mortgage that's backed by the federal government. Yeah. The only one. I mean, we had spoken earlier about days in service and days in combat and what could potentially make you eligible. There's no PMI involved in it. If you put down less than 20%, 10%, 0%, you don't pay any PMI. So again, true 0% down loan. As I indicated, it's guaranteed by the federal government. There is a potential funding fee that the VA charges, and they put on the loan amount depending on whether or not you're disabled or what percentage of disability that you have with the VA. There's no debt to income ratio requirements. So unlike conventional and FHA where there's limits, that's not how it works with a VA mortgage.
Right.
It's more has to do with residual income, and there's technically no loan amount. It's relative to what's in the area. And when you're someone looking to sell your home to a veteran, one, listen, they're a veteran. Take the offer. Look at the offer. Number one, it's the least that we can do as civilians. And then number two, just understand that this particular loan product is an extremely aggressive product to help veterans get into a home.
100%. 100%. I think the main thing with the VA loans is how you were talking about down in those other southern states, how it's so widely accepted is because those states are heavily military.
Right.
They're heavy military. And although New Jersey is, I do believe that we have a lot of uneducated professionals regarding this particular loan. And instead of taking the time to learn it, through the years, it was just like, no, the inspection is too tough. You don't want to use that loan. And a stigma was created regarding the VA loan, how it just wasn't a good loan.
Right.
But in fact, everything that you just said is 100% accurate. It's the best loan.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is. We got to go on tour.
I'm ready.
We're going on tour.
I'm ready.
Because we really got to get this message out face to face. Nick, pack our stuff. We're going on tour. Nick's got to pick up his microphone.
You know how long I've been trying to get you on tour?
We're going on tour.
I'm buying a camper tomorrow.
Yeah, no, we got to go on tour because this is really a message that needs to get out there in the marketplace.
So talking about going on tour, now we have talked about this a little bit prior to the show. I am serious about traveling this state. I want to try to get into every armory I possibly can, see if we can get 30 to 45 minutes of time to let these soldiers, these servicemen and women know what's available to them and how we can help them.
Yeah, no question, Dennis. And I'm 100% in on doing that with you. So I have to pinpoint some different areas throughout the state to really target that. And from a lending standpoint, when you look at VA mortgages, it really is important that folks are working with someone who's been doing it for a really long time, right? So I talked a little bit about some of the benefits of a VA mortgage, but with myself personally, with 24 years of experience in helping veterans get into homes, there are some nuances of the transaction that you really got to be familiar with and try to lead people down the right path of assistance. And my point being that you have to be working with someone who really knows that marketplace because it's different.
It is.
Right? And it's different in a good way, but it's understanding what the needs are of the person that are looking for the house and then what can and can't be done.
Agreed.
So as we get on tour and doing that, we're going to go deep on how we can better support, how we can better educate, and how we can better drive the message home. Because we have to get that VA mortgage stat for veterans in active duty under 25%. I mean, that number should be 75%.
Yeah.
You know, it just tells me that people are potentially paying more. And if they're not paying more, because maybe it isn't the right product for a particular veteran, but it tells me that we may not have the education that's needed or in place so people can make an educated decision as to what the best product is for them.
Agreed. This is a home run. No one's ever done anything like this. You know, what we're trying to do here. And I even actually, I had taken a class recently for KW military. Yeah. And it was specifically geared toward working with veterans. Right. So this whole program has been laid out, and I told the instructor about what I wanted to do. She was all about it. She wants to know about it. She wants to know how this goes and everything. This could potentially be the start of something that could carry on nationwide. You know, this grassroots effort that we were talking about earlier, it's going to start right here in New Jersey. Yeah.
Well, we got our work cut out for us, and it's a privilege to put the work into it.
Sure is.
And I want to go back to one more thing. When we had talked about in the market that we're kind of at the end of right now, a lot of VA buyers were getting, I wouldn't say priced out of the market, but their offers weren't getting looked at because they were looking to put down 0%.
Right.
And one of the ways around that is if we do have some money to put down, so even if it's $10,000 to put down as a initial deposit, the veteran or the active duty person can get that money refunded to them at the closing. So that way we're not going into a contract where the seller feels, oh, there's no vested commitment in this. Well, no, all right, we'll put $20,000 as a deposit, but that money's fully refundable at the closing.
Right.
And from a seller perspective, it doesn't even matter, right? They just want to know that they have a commitment and they have a financial commitment from the consumer or from the buyer.
Yeah, 100% right.
What else are your thoughts on it, Dennis, and how we can better help the community?
So, as professionals, volunteer more.
Yeah.
Say thank you.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there to let people know that you're there to help, and educate yourself more.
Right. Well, all the information's available online, or you can call Dennis, you can call myself to get more information on what can and can't be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the word that just pops into my mind is caring.
Yeah.
Understanding where a veteran has been, to understand where an active service member is, and understand the amount of sacrifice that it takes to go into the military, and be respectful of that, right? Be respectful of it and support while people are in active service and when they're veterans, because we just don't do enough of it in this country. And I don't think there's enough safeguards in place from a government standpoint, in my opinion, to better support. I mean, you look at, not to go off on a tangent with it, you go look at the mental health aspect of it outside of mortgages. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, there's high suicide rates in military, and we were talking about it the other day. What's the stat on that?
22 a day.
22 a day.
22 veterans we lose every day to suicide.
That's hurtful, right? That's a shame. So just with the mental health, with financial services, with everything, there's not enough that we can do for veterans in our country. What do you think, Dennis, is the one thing that we can do to help our military community support the goal of homeownership?
Good question, man. I feel like my answers are all the same.
Yeah.
But they pretty much it all starts with educating and just putting it out there.
Right.
We have to let our veterans know that these programs are available to them, that they can take advantage of these benefits. And we have to do it on a grander scale, because like I said, when we get out, or even as a reservist or a guardsman, even then, you still don't know of everything that's available to you, because the armories don't know. Your leadership, they don't know, because It's not put out to them either. It's not their fault. It's just that there's nothing in place to go past the military.
Right.
Their job is the military. That's all they're responsible for, is to teach you how to be a soldier, teach you how to be a Marine, and maintain that job title. So,
and you made it clear earlier when you look at kind of just the thought process. When you're told what you're doing every day for years upon end, you come out of it and you say, well, what am I doing today?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And that's not a negative. That's the human condition.
Yeah,
right?
It is. Why do you think we have so many homeless veterans?
Right.
Because they gave up.
Right.
They gave up because, especially like way back in the day, I mean, I personally believe it's a lot better now than it was 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And 10, 15 years ago, it was a lot better than it was 10, 15 years prior to that. However, we still have it. We still have 22 suicides a day, even now more than ever, because it's almost like they I don't want to say they glorify these things, but all you see in the news and the media anymore is doom and gloom.
Right.
Nobody ever focuses on like the positive stuff.
Right.
That's another thing we should probably do, is focus more on the positive things that our veterans do for us.
There's good in people trying to support one another in this world. And that's a message that there's just not enough of that out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking moving forward, like I said, we're going to go on tour and we're going to do some different things together, Dennis, try and get this message out there. I mean, we are going to post on video and get on the show some support organizations that are in our area. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of them. You had mentioned Mod Deuce Deuce. What other organizations are available in the area?
There's actually a lot. What I will do is I will put a list together of all the organizations that either I have heard of or at one point I have communicated with, mm-hmm. and maybe we can like post that somewhere down the line or whenever this thing airs or whatever, so we can give people an opportunity to go and check those organizations out. Or if you want to know more like on the side, just get in touch with me. Yeah,
we're going to get that. We'll get that posted and we'll get that out there. Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
I need a list right now, Dennis.
Let me get my phone.
So, Dennis, if someone did have questions for you that are for folks in the military or anybody at all, what's the best way to reach you?
Call me. Call my phone,
What's your phone number?
732-598-2672.
Here, give that to us one more time.
732-598-2672.
Very good. How about your email address? A good way to reach you as well?
Yeah, you can email me, Dennis Mark, DennisMark at kw.com.
Fantastic.
Easy.
Hey, Dennis, there's a hat on the desk that
There
everyone
is.
can see.
There is.
Tell us about the hat.
This is my campaign hat. I wore this for 3 years. I was a drill sergeant in the Army,
Uh-huh.
and this was my only campaign hat. I never changed it in 3 years. So everything that I've done, every troop I trained, every weapon I cleared, every time I called cadence, no matter what, this thing was on my head.
You got to give me some cadence. I know you won't put the hat on. You don't want to mess up the hair?
I will not put the hat on. To be honest, it doesn't even fit anymore. My fat got too fat.
Come on, give me some drill sergeant cadence.
Oh my God.
Come on, let's go.
Hey, Private, you better stand at ease when you talk to me.
Sorry, sir.
Listen up. Here we go. Platoon, attention. Right, face, forward, march, hell left, right, hell left, right. 1, 2, 3, fall, 2, 3, fall, 2, 3, fall, left, right on left, hell left, right.
It's
How's that?
fantastic. It's fantastic, Dennis. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure. I haven't done that in a long time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, man. That was
Well,
good.
just give us again your phone number one more time.
All right, 732-598-2672. You can text or call.
Fantastic. Dennis, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Again, this is Greg Wareham with Your Mortgage Process, and our guest, Dennis Mark. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And thank you, everyone out there, for listening today. We appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Your Mortgage Process, hosted by Greg Wareham, produced by Greg Wareham and Nick Pavis at The Social Rift, and executively produced by The Social Rift. Thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.